I'm Areej Al-Shakar. I'm the CEO of BE Ventures. It's Babco Energy Ventures. It's the venture arm of the national oil company in Bahrain. Newly established. It's just a year old actually, and we've been in active kind of deploying and looking at different technologies that we can help implement on our current business units, whether it's in our refinery, our upstream business, our retail businesses, and then also how we can help support our energy transition and decarbonization goals. And so, technology is always that famous buzzword that everyone talks about, but for us, it's are we able to effectively look at technologies that can help, create dollar value for us, but also strategically help support, create efficiencies for our operators, for the people who are out on the fields, and really look into the future on how we can really, be kind of like a sandbox for the region as we look at new energy technologies to help spread across, the GCC.
I have so many questions for you. One of the challenges, particularly working in energy, is that prospective investments at scale are going to require a large amount of capital. This is not something that, we're going to put $3 million in and get to some commercial agreement. So as you think about the diligence process, how do you get comfortable with the idea that, okay, we're going to make a beachhead $10 million investment, but this project is going to cost $400 million to get to scale and then need to be replicated? Areej, do you have a thought on that?
So, from our perspective, we've just been, it's like, humble compared to my fellow panelists in terms of how long we've been doing this.
I don't know, a year's a long time.
A year, yeah, maybe, depends. I think what is really beneficial when we're coming from like a corporate VC perspective is the ability to kind of take these technologies and automatically kind of de-risk it by trying to see how it actually applies into our business units, especially, whether it's applying to our refinery or our upstream business. But like you said, it requires a lot of capital. But I think where if you stage, you kind of stage it in a way that, okay, if this works, then we can put in more money, and if it, continues to kind of, and so creating an environment within the ecosystem that you have to kind of de-risk it, I think can be maybe an easier path. But then you also need to think about, how much money you want to kind of invest at the beginning and the valuations, and when do you want to exit and be able to kind of, look at that pathway as well. So it's an interesting balance, at least from a corporate perspective.
Yeah, no, Bruce. So Areej, you're in a different spot. You're in a very small country. Can you talk a little bit about how you think about the investments you make? Obviously, having to support your parent organization, but clearly they also have to flourish in other markets. And how do you think about choosing those particular platforms and where you're focused geographically?
So we don't really have a particular geographic focus now in our kind of first year. We're getting to know all the different markets and where we can see the best complementary technologies for us. You're right, we're a small country, but we also have, a very efficient system. Our ecosystem is all 1 degree away from us. We have access to decision makers, and effectively, we also have a very unique, industry in our oil and gas space, from upstream all the way to downstream. And I think we complement, and we've always been at the center of being able to complement our neighbors. We've always been small, we've always been kind of at the core of that, but I think we really have the ability to really have a lot of these companies who are looking to cross over and come over. A lot of the founders in oil and gas are, engineers, put their head down and focus, and are not kind of like, the fun kind of fintech founders that you usually see and are very kind of go to all the conferences and know what's going on. And so what I found is that when I meet these founders and, they're a little bit apprehensive or intimidated by moving to the region where they know a lot of their future customers are, we can definitely be their first kind of stepping stone. Come over, We'll incubate you within our ecosystem. We'll help support you when it comes to understanding the nuances and how to build these businesses within the Middle East. And then, of course, our neighbors just across the border. And then, we are a good place to kind of be an operational kind of center for a lot of these, businesses, from access to talent, the ability to kind of ease of doing business. But also, Bahrain's a nice place, and so, it's not too bad to kind of come over and be there.
Quick follow-on to that. Do you facilitate the implementation of some of the portfolio company products and help support them as they do a pilot or roll out?
Absolutely. So how I looked at it is, I don't come from the industry. I have like 22 years of experience in banking and asset management along with venture capital. But then we have a huge pool of talent that are all across our business units, engineers that have been doing this all their lives. And when we look at diligencing, the best way is to see whether this actually works and whether these engineers can actually think that there's an opportunity for that. So part of our process is, our step one of our due diligence process is building out these pilots, bringing them over, working with the operators, and then of course we want to make money. So we look at it from a financial perspective and how this can scale and grow, and whether the region can be a big market for them. And then to your point, it's difficult. In the US, you can start a business and then you can just scale across very easily. In Europe, with all the differences and the different regulations, a little bit harder. We're like that a little bit too, but I think in oil and gas, we're kind of like friends and peers. So I think it's a little bit easier than when we look at other technologies. And I'm excited because I came from kind of financial technology, and I'm like, this is we have our challenges, but at the end of the day, there's an opportunity because we all can work seamlessly together across, Saudi Aramco and ADNOC and our peers in, Qatar and Kuwait, etc. So I'm very excited about this.
Nice. So
I think we're very lucky because across, Babco and all of our business units, you have the people who it actually is their forte, the ones who wish they could actually have invented this or looked at it. And it's an interesting discussion. And you need to have a level of humility, being someone who's an expert in investing and being able to kind of do venture in its space, but also understanding that people who come from the other side, have deep expertise and focus. So I've learned to kind of have big conversations with them, telling them to ensure when they use their lingo. I spent the first year getting confused in every meeting because they kept saying SME. And I thought that was small and medium-sized enterprises until I realized it meant subject matter expert. And so I think it's been an interesting kind of dynamic between people who come in and tell them, great, you want this and you believe in this and you believe in the research and the deep thing, but how do we make this commercial? How can we make money out of this? And being able to have this kind of, I would say, trifecta between the founder of the company that I'm looking at, between our operators and our experts, and then between us that come from the finance perspective. How are we able to kind of balance across all of that? And I think we've kind of built a checklist, much like how we do a finance checklist, team, market, et cetera, but also on the technical side. How is this able to be applied within not just Babco, but across our peers. But I think it's definitely an awareness and an education process. But I think, and I'm sure maybe Bruce would agree with me, that it's...
He never agrees with me.
He doesn't? Okay, all right, well. We'll have to see. But I think we're lucky because I can just knock on the door and ask one of the engineers, is this real? Is this for real?
Can I just ask a corollary to that while you answer that, Bruce, or add on to that? One of the things that I have found that plagues our own diligence process is sometimes when you find a subject matter expert, an SME in your vernacular, you have a uniform process. Do you, for example, like at Amazon, everything had to be a 4-page typed single-space memo. Do you do the same thing for every investment for the sake of uniformity and process?
I mean, there is a structure for sure. I mean, at the end of the day, we're part of a corporate organization, so there's processes for approvals. But like to Bruce's point, every technology is a little bit different.
Yeah.
So if we're looking at anything in the new energy space, it'll be very different to something that is easily applicable and deployed in our business units. but we definitely do have what we'd say in a template, and then we adapt it. Yeah, all right, well, quickly.
You get the last word.
Yeah, of course. So, new energy, how do SMRs kind of play a part in our data center play in Bahrain? Storage for, basically solar, etc. And then I think what's very interesting as well is robotics, how we're able to kind of implement that from a safety perspective in our refinery and our upstream business. So
we have a robot that is
really good,
designed for the oil field.
And then of course, one last thing is that to me it's very important, the founder behind each of these companies.
You're going to love it.
Okay, great.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank the panel. They're
Thank
amazing.
You so much. Thank you.